Will this series get back to Phoenix?
Yes. I mean, I watched that game, and look, my takeaway from the Bucks side of things is just Giannis was sensational last night. 42, 12, and 4. It's freakish that given his knee bent backwards 8 days ago, that was an all-time performance. He even said himself that at the time of that injury, he thought that he was done for the season. But he was sensational, especially in that third quarter. We even saw him battling. But post-game, he said that he didn't have any issues with his knee. He was just cramping, and he needs to drink more water. And that may speak to his conditioning. Bud said post-game injury-wise, he's in a good place. They're obviously playing him big minutes, so he's getting that conditioning out there. Giannis did all he could do on a bad knee to keep the Bucks in a game that really they had no business being in. He played like an MVP, and he played like the finals aren't guaranteed. The difference right now between these two teams is the Suns are resourceful. They had multiple guys stepping up. At times in a game where just offensively, it felt like Giannis was like Will Smith, in an empty, like in that empty living room, that meme. He scored the most points in a finals quarter ever, and the Bucks were still down in the third quarter. So I say all that to answer your question. If Middleton would have had a average game, I believe they would have won. And the Suns did what they were supposed to do. They won first 2 games at home. The series shifts now to Milwaukee. I think in this series, like now with fans back in the arenas, the Suns aren't going to have the motivation of that amazing crowd in Phoenix. So I think if they can get Middleton and Drew Holiday offensively working, I thought defensively, they played well. Brooke Lopez was great on pick and roll defense. Drew Holiday had some monster plays. They obviously got, annihilated on the 3. So there's a lot of things they need to tweak from now until Sunday. But if you watch that game and think that the Bucks were out of it, they kept fighting. And the Suns, they had answers for every single time. But I just don't Middleton has to be unleashed.
Cassidy, you speak of Middleton has to be unleashed. Giannis gave him 42 points. Let's not talk about the defensive side or the rebounds or the blocks, anything like that. He gave him 42 points, but yet and still his running mate somehow remains in witness protection. When does he come out of witness protection?
Look, he had a good game 1. He was the one who kept them in that game in game 1 in the third quarter when Giannis, was trying to find his rhythm in game 1. So he has to. They talked about it post game that it has to be a team effort. I think this just the juxtaposition of the two teams is that the Suns, and this is something that the Suns keep priding themselves, that they are a team. They have guys who step up and know their roles. I think something that really sums them up is that 9+ pass play, and Mikal Bridges and Chris Paul were talking about it post game that like that play that they talked about it immediately as they got off the court because they felt the energy of having everyone touch the ball and that team basketball. And that's what Giannis was stressing. We saw the cameras catch him, in the huddle, trying to pump up his teammates. And that's what he said. Like, we have to be a cohesive unit. Giannis did what he had to do and take over that game. But it can't just be on those 3 guys, even though Bud said, the difference is we need our top 3 guys to show up. The Bucks need to be working more in concert with each other. People are going to also criticize Drew Holiday's, some of the shots maybe like he didn't need to let fly, but defensively, he was a huge difference maker.
Coach Bud talked about, as you mentioned, Cassidy, the top 3 guys showing up. How about him showing up adjustment-wise to figure out how to slow down Devin Booker and Chris Paul, who has combined for a record-breaking backcourt of 113 points in the first 2 games? How about trying to slow that down with some adjustments?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, guys. Like, we put a lot of blame on Bud not being creative, but he made a lot of adjustments. Um, Monty Williams said, like, that first quarter was like a barrage of aggression. And we saw that they wanted to make it uncomfortable. Chris Paul, he had 6 turnovers, so he seemed a little worn down. But when it comes to Devin Booker, he stepped up, and that's something that Chris said post game, is that I have faith in Devin Booker. Our trust level is through the roof, and these two guys, look, Chris may be the veteran, but as I mentioned yesterday, he said that he wanted to join the Suns so he can team up with Booker. And Monty Williams said after the game about Devin Booker that he's made for these moments. He doesn't get tired in games. He said he almost looks insulted when Book, when he asked Book rather if he's good, and Monty says the great ones find a way to push through the fatigue, and Chris Paul also said that just Devin stays in attack mode, and how much trust they've built between the two of them. He said whatever happens during the game, they just know that there's no malicious intent towards each other. There's just such a trust, and that trust is throughout the team. That's why you see a guy like Mikal Bridges step up the way he did yesterday, because he knows his role. And Chris said, that guy's a champion, and he plays like it. He understands what it takes to win. And Chris also said, look, Book had 70 in a game. You don't do that being shy. He puts in the work. He models himself after Kobe. And you can't do that without putting in the work. But, we're seeing it's so impressive to see a guy like Devin Booker.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.